What does shadow work look like? Welcome to the Bold Perspectives podcast. My name is Archie Del Rey, and this session is a little bit special. I'm going to give you an uncut recording of me doing a shadow work session with myself, where I start with a belief, which is I am powerless to technology, and I will transform that belief into a new one. The only thing I cut out was the silence in between, so that it's a bit less boring for you. The rest is original audio as I go through this process with myself. The whole session took me around 50 minutes. And my intention is to show you how this can be done. Like, what is this experience like when you have a certain belief that you discover and that you are not aware where it comes from, why it is there. You just feel that it is something that you want to work on, that you want to change. And for me, I discovered this belief that I am powerless to technology while reflecting on how I feel towards the current situation, how I feel in my work life, in my career, and how something had changed in the last years that I didn't notice until recently, that I silently went from being a nerd and a tech fan to somebody who feels very powerless to all the changes that are happening, and somebody who doesn't feel like even participating anymore because just so many things are not going the way that I would like them to go. So reflecting on that feeling of powerlessness, I noticed that it feels like a limiting belief. It feels like something that is in me for whatever reason, and I feel stuck with it. And why this is called shadow work is because we are shining a light onto something that is in the shadow, that's something that is in my subconscious, and we are bringing that into consciousness and allow it to change by itself. So this is a highly intuitive process. It also looks very different every time I do it, be it with myself or with a client. So without further ado, let's jump in. This is a little bit experimental, so let me know if that is interesting for you, if that is something you would like to hear more of. Here is the original audio of me transforming a belief. So here I am sitting with the belief that I am powerless to technology. And the first thing that comes to mind is powerlessness is the result of giving up. It is not necessarily natural state to be in as a human, because usually as humans we have so much life force. We are the manifestation of life force. And then again, giving up is natural whenever there is a perception that something is too big. It doesn't have to be reality. It's enough when it is perceived that way. So a question I often begin inquiry with is, when did this start? Like, when was the moment in time when I gave up on believing that I can use technology as a tool, which is what I spent most of my life thinking, really? When did that change to this state of powerlessness? Like, when did my nervous system, when did my emotional body, when did that feeling, that energy of powerlessness get in? Like, what happened? And I'm not going to try to remember or think of it. I'm just going to close my eyes, breathe, and see what comes up. So I sat here in silence for a few minutes, and I had different memories come up from the last 5-6 years or so. But it did not feel like an entry point to me. It felt more like my mind was trying to answer the question. I realized that because I was clinging to that channel, I was expecting my mind to bring up actual images of memories. So as soon as I let go of that, my body started twisting. I feel this circular movement in my belly around the diaphragm, and I just follow the movement. I do little circles with my spine around the abdomen, around solar plexus, and I just sit here and follow the movements. So sitting here for a few more minutes now, following the movements, this sort of chaotic movements of my body, it made me think of an ex-partner, of a relationship that I had years ago. I'm not sure yet if that is relevant, just acknowledging what comes up with no expectations. And then I got a little image of what looks like a little splinter or like a mini little sword, maybe a knife, white color. And I kind of saw that image inside of my solar plexus, just where the middle of the rib cage kind of gets into the soft area of the belly. Now my mind registers anything that is happening in the area of the solar plexus. Usually has to do with fear of confrontation and the reluctance to assert your boundaries and desires. So solar plexus is all about meeting other people with integrity and with clarity. So I keep getting these images of some of the intimate moments that we had together with that woman years ago. And my mind is asking now, does it have something to do with kind of loss of integrity that I experienced back then? Because I remember that only after we broke up and only after I spent quite some time alone had I realized that I was not being fully present with that person, because I was not fully owning and acknowledging the frustrations that I had with the sort of incompatibility that we were facing, which at that time I did not acknowledge as incompatibility because I was not acknowledging those frustrations as frustrations. So whatever that has to do with my initial question and belief, I just trust the process and speak out loud for myself that I acknowledge my frustrations, I acknowledge my boundaries and my desires. I take the space that I need to be myself, whatever is required. These are the words that intuitively came to me right now. So now that energy of that movement changed a little bit. It got much slower. With that slowing down, I feel more heavy. It feels like I'm sinking into something. Now the movement came to a halt. Whatever felt like sinking feels like it's at the bottom. I notice something that feels like heaviness or a weight, but a pleasant weight that fell all down to the floor at the bottom of my spine, and there is stillness. I'm getting images of her again, and this time in these images there is water flowing out of her. Whatever that means, just acknowledging the images. Next, that image disappeared after I watched it for quite a while. And next thing is that something that felt like an electric impulse went up my spine. That gave me goosebumps. Now it came a second time. And now it feels that something is blocking at the crown, like at the tip of my head. I feel like that energy that shoots up the spine has to stop there. So I'm acknowledging that. I'm never rushing for solutions, and at the same time being aware of all these sensations and images, all these steps of this process that I'm going to. For each one of the steps, there is usually a clarity of, is this something that is a yes? Is it, and does it expand? Does it arrive? Does it create peace and flow? Or is it something that contracts or gets stuck? And this definitely feels like something gets stuck at the tip of my head. And now as I'm speaking through this, I'm starting to get an actual headache. So I'm just breathing and sitting with it and see what further impulses are coming up. So as I sit with it, I get this sensation of something hugging me like a jacket, and it feels like it's made of glass. So my first understanding of it is like a protection. At the same time, this question, why glass? Does it really protect? It is transparent. It can easily break. Yeah, so this feels like a representation of some sort of configuration. Configuration is the word that comes to mind, that I am in. It feels a bit like sitting in a glass bottle with that lid on top. So the more I sit with this, the more I realize that this is a rigid structure, so nothing is going to change here unless I take a decision. And to me, it feels very clear that I have a no for this configuration. I do not want to, even though I do not quite understand what the glass bottle means, but the sensations and my emotional state right now, which I would describe as 15 to 20% intensity of anger. So I'm angry that I'm sitting in a glass bottle, and even if I do not understand the meaning of it, I have a clear no for it. And saying this gives me goosebumps. So I feel that something of this crystalline and rigid energy becomes a bit more soft, a bit more liquid, and there's movement again. I feel like moving my shoulders. So the next thing that happens is I have the impulse to bow, and it comes in a bit like a request, and it is a request for humility, for humbleness, and that is what it feels like, to bow my head, to being humble. That in connection with the crown, and with the blockage at the crown, makes me think of the crown being the connection to spiritual guidance, or whatever you might call it. My personal calling for this life, maybe larger purpose, being part of something larger. Even if you do not consider yourself spiritual, you probably consider yourself as a part of something larger. So to me, the symbolics of the crown is like an antenna that is connected to whatever my mind cannot understand, because it's above the mind, it's beyond the mind. So the word that comes to mind to describe this humbleness, this invitation for humility, is not even that, it is actually honor. The word honor comes to mind. And humility is not about making myself smaller than I am, but it's actually honoring my own greatness and honoring the path of the calling, honoring the fact that I am part of something larger than me. So with that intention, I will just follow the impulse to bow my head down and to speak whatever comes out of me without having to understand what I'm saying or doing. I bow to the Great Spirit in honor of my true path, in honor of my path, my greatness, and my humility. I bow here and now and ask for forgiveness of all these moments when I did not honor my own path, causing pain to myself and to others. I reconfigure. I break the glass bottle with a hammer because it doesn't feel right to protect myself like this. I lift off the lid because it is enough to take my own decisions. I allow myself to grow and expand beyond what I think is right or think should be my path. I commit to loving myself because I do love myself. Thank you for this opportunity to change. So be it. Okay, now that the protection is lifted, I feel a presence of beings, a multitude of beings that I feel are putting pressure on me from the outside. So now it makes sense what the protection was for. I call upon the universal law of health and integrity. You cannot harm me. I call upon the universal law of transformation. Go back where you came from, all of you, now. I will not endure any of your pressure. That is a clear no. Clear my space. Calling upon universal laws often helps to remind yourself that this universe is malleable and anything can be changed and you're not a victim to anything. New decisions can be made with every breath. So saying these sentences made those beings disappear from my view, so I feel much more expanded right now. I feel like my inner space has become quite a space. There's only one little itch that I feel on the left side of my body. I don't have any impulses to follow up on that. So now, after going through some resolve, as I did right now, usually this is a good moment to bring up the initial key thing in again and see what has changed. So my initial entry point was the powerlessness towards technology. And this is interesting. The first thing that comes up when I bring that back in, or into this sort of expanded inner space that I feel, my first impulse is to lean back. So I'm doing just that. I'm changing my seating position from upright to very laid back. And the idea that I'm getting is that this is sort of a way to disengage and create a bit of distance, like you would usually do in order to see the bigger picture. And the more I sit with it, even though my mind is racing a little bit, trying to translate this into actionable items, something I could do about the situation. At the same time, I realized that the feeling, like the sensation of having this space and having this distance to the whole conflict, just feels really, really nice. It feels like it gives me a moment to breathe. It feels like the opposite of being in the middle of the battle, being in that crossfire. It feels almost as if I would be sitting around the fire in nature, maybe even with other people, and it's the sensation of the fire is close enough that I can perceive it. It feels like it's 2 to 3 meters away from me, but it feels like a safe distance. I'm not going to burn myself. So this feels really nice. My impulse is to anchor this so that I can start building the bridge from this sensation, from this feeling, from this image into my actual day-to-day life experience. And for that anchor, this image of me sitting 3 meters away from the campfire works quite well. If I would have to put this into like a mantra, into like an affirmation, using words, what comes to mind is the sentence, I am safe by the fire. I am safe beneath the fire. For anchoring, a body movement is usually a very good practice. The movement that I automatically make is I stretch my hand in front of me, like in a no kind of fashion, so I'm kind of setting a boundary to the fire to not come closer. At the same time, affirming that it is safe for me to put my hand in front of me without burning the hand. So this movement is kind of confirming the new belief that we are installing, which is, I am safe by the fire. So a good practice to anchor this is, for the next days, I will at least once a day take my time, take a few minutes to close my eyes and go back into this situation, do the hand movement, see the fire in front of me at a safe distance and say the words, I am safe by the fire, and then see what happens. Usually anchoring a new belief in that experienced kind of way starts attracting new and other thoughts and feelings and actions and everything that resonates more with this reality of I am safe by the fire, as opposed to that old belief that was I am powerless to technology. So let's see where this goes. I hope you found this helpful. This was a bit experimental for me. Let me know if something resonated for you or if you have further questions. All the best to you until then, and take care.